In this video I'll be explaining the CRUD operations about the web APIs in ASP.NET Core. So let's create a project in ASP.NET Core. So I'll select language as a C#. I'm creating ASP.NET Core web API project with RESTful services. So let's create a CRUD APIs for add, update, delete employees into the database. Let's say employee database management. The project name, this is the directory that I have specified, and this is the solution name that I am giving. I'll click on next. So it will ask for the .NET long-term support framework, which SDK you wanted to use. Click on the configure HTTP servers. It will configure the HTTP server for us using controllers. Do not use top level statement. I'll keep everything default as it is. I'll click on create. So it will basically create a default ASP.NET Core web API project, so in which we will add the controllers for the employee management. It's loading a project. So this is really typical the overview of the file structure in the web API project in ASP.NET Core. So there is this controller folder in which controller classes are present, and there is this app setting file in which you can keep the configuration related things, and there is this file called program.cs. This will be basically the entry point to our application in which you can configure the dependency injection for various classes. We'll be using this file to configure the employee service. So first of all, let me create a couple of folders here. So I'm creating two folders. One folder is for the services that we'll be adding, services, and one folder I will create for the model classes, basically DTO objects, models. So in the controller, let's add new controller first. Let's say we wanted to perform the CRUD operation on the employee. For that we'll add employee controller. So I'll choose API empty controller. Click on add. So the controller, the name that you need to specify, so you can provide any name. So I'll provide the employee, let's say employee controller. So this will create a controller class. You can see here employee.controller.file.cs has been added. Let me zoom in a bit. So here you can see this is the controller class. This is inherited from the controller base class, on which various actions and other things are present in this class that we'll be using this on. So this is the route annotation, basically used to provide the route to the this controller. Let me add a constructor first. So we'll add a public constructor, public employee controller. So this is the public constructor that we have added, and now we'll be adding the endpoints for CRUD operation. So I'll first mention public async. It's task of action result, add employee. So this will be our very first endpoint. So basically this and public method can be invoked from outside the classes, from the other libraries. This method will be asynchronous method, and this method is returning task of action result. Basically this is a generic type, will be able to return not only the status code, the data as well. And this is the method name. Let me provide HTTP route for this one. So this will be used to add employee, hence I am providing the HTTP post. Let me provide the route name, add employee. Okay, and here we'll create one class in the models folder, add class. So the class name that I'm specifying is let's say employee request class. So in which, so this class will be created in this models folder. So in this we'll be adding the properties for our use cases. So we'll consider like 2 to 3 properties that we'll be using in our application. Let me define first. So very first property I will use is employee first name. Then let's define few more properties. Employee last name. Third property is, let's say, email. Fourth property, let's say salary. Let's say is active employee or not. Very last property that we are specifying. So in this case I have provided like 5 different properties, so you can specify other properties as per your convention. So is active, salary is a decimal, email is a string property, last name, first name. Okay, so we can create a constructor here as well. So you can create a parameterized constructor and set this field, it's up to you. So I'll keep as it is these things. So I'll go to the solution explorer again, and in the employee controller I'll go here. So what we'll do is we'll pick so basically from the client we'll get the data to this endpoint. So I'll specify from body we'll be picking up the data, employee request type. This is an employee request, and then we will pass this data to next layer. So you can return a bad request, let's say oops, please provide valid input. So in case we have done small error handling here. So in the services, let's add a class, add controller. Oops. So add class. So in the service folder I'm adding a class called employee service. So in this class we'll basically adding the business logic. You can type CTR and hit enter to get a constructor. This is a shortcut. So here I will write a method public. This method will return let's say task of boolean. and this is asynchronous method, let's say, and insert employee details, and this method, let's say, taking input of type employee request, and here we'll make a SQL connection, we'll add this into the database. So for that you need to add a package to make a SQL connection. So that package will be like SQL data client. So let me import that first. So in the browse tab I'll search for the SQL data. So this is the library that we'll be using to make a SQL connection. Let me click on the install button. I accept. So in the employee service, if I go now and let me type the SQL statement first. So basically, in order to insert into the table, you need to write a SQL statement, something like this: insert into, we'll create a table, let's say employee table will create, and what will pass is first name, last name. So these columns we need to create in the database table. Salary is active, so these are the columns, and values we can specify then. So values will be, I will use the template values for a time being, we'll replace those. Let's say @ first name, @ last name, @ email, @ salary, @ is active. So basically this is the SQL statement that we'll be using. So I return that SQL statement into the SQL statement. Okay, so let's create a connection. Let me use that library that we have imported, SQL data client. So I'll create SQL connection class object, SQL connection equal to new SQL connection. So here we'll use the parameterized version of this constructor, in which we need to pass the connection string. Okay, so basically this connection string is string to the database. So I'll create a variable private read only connection string, this is of type string, is equal to, so I'll write some code here. Very first thing is the data source we need to add, then second thing is initial catalog. So data source is the server where your the MySQL server is running. So in my case this will be the server name. So the initial catalog, basically this will be the database name. So we'll create a database, and you need to pass couple of parameters: integrated security true, multiple result active section, these things. So I'll put down this something in the notes, you can copy paste as it is. Just remember that you need to replace the data source version and the initial catalog name. So what this guy is, let me show you. So I'm here in the SQL Server Management Studio. I'll create a new database. Employee manage, or let's say MyDB, something like this. I'm creating this MyDB database. So the database has been created here. So let's write a query. I'll choose the database as MyDB. So this will be the query, create employees. So what is the table name that we have given? Employee table, right? Create employee table where the employee ID is identity auto incremented property, first name, last name, email, salary, and is active field. Is active is by default 1. So let me execute this query. So this table, the table should be created. And let me just show you the table. So when I hit enter, so you can see the employee ID, first name, email, salary is active. These are the fields where the employee is auto incremented property. Additionally, you can insert data using the insert statement. So this is like insert into employees table where the first name, last name, email, salary, these fields we are inserting. Let me hit. So one row affected, and if I retrieve the using the select, you can see the data has been inserted. So this is the table name, and this is the MyDB's our initial database name. So in the code I have specified here the server name, which is this one. Here you can right click on the properties, you can see. So this is the server name, desktop something, okay. And in the initial catalog I need to specify the database name, which is MyDB M capital. So I can specify that MyDB M capital, okay. So a couple of flags, integrate security to multiple active result sets true, okay. So this is the connection string. So we'll be using this connection string. With the help of that we'll establish the connection. Very next thing what we need to do here is, once you establish a connection, okay, so you need to open a collection. I'll use the asynchronous method, SQL connection dot open async. This is available on this object. So this will opens the connection, which opens the database connection with the settings specified, the system data dot db connections. This method works virtual, blah 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 things. So next thing is we need to fire a SQL command that we have prepared using this connection string. So let me do that using SQL command cmd equal to new SQL command, and here one is SQL statement, second parameter is SQL connection. So in this one we'll write the code that wanted to, but here if you see now the user will send the details into this one, and we need to change this hard-coded string to have the exact values. So I'll use something like cmd dot parameters, and there is a method called add with value, okay. So what this method will do is, so you need to specify the parameter name. Let's say first parameter is @first name. So this one, the first parameter. So we'll be replacing this parameter with the employee request dot first name, okay. So in this way, before executing the command, I will update this particular command, this parameter first name parameter, with the actual value from the employee request, okay. Same thing we can do for rest of the code, where we can update the last name with the last name. We'll update the email with the email field. salary with the salary field, and last one is active. So I have replaced the parameters in this command. Now what I will create is, after that we need to execute this query. Let's say await cmd dot, there is this method execute non-query async. You can invoke this method to execute on this connection. Okay, so what this method will return a integer. So basically this will return the number of rows affected. So I'll hold that integer into one variable. Okay, so let's say if this is, and what will return, this method is returning boolean, right? So let's return the rows affected. Let's return true if rows affected greater than 0, otherwise false. Return. Okay, there is some, so this is something, the code what we have wrote. So this is constructor in which we haven't done anything. This insert employee details method picking up employee request. This is returning true or false. This is the SQL statement that we have prepared. SQL connection is using connection string parameterized constructor. Then we are opening the port, executing the query, and after execute query we should await SQL connection dot close async. We should close the connection too. Okay, so this is after executing the query, and after that I'm returning true or false. Let's use this method in the controller that we have created. So in the employee controller, what I'll do is I'll create a dependency here. Let's say I'll create one private variable of employee service class, employee service, let's say underscore employee service. So in the C# basically there is the naming convention, we use underscore with the private fields. And let's add this one via the dependency injection. Basically we'll be using the constructor dependency injection. We'll set the employee service equal to employee service. If you don't know how to use the dependency injection, there is a video that I have created on my channel. There is a video for dependency injection, you can see that. So in the program.cs, I'll go here, I'll add the dependency in the service collections. I'll be adding the singleton dependency for the employee service class. Okay, so I have added singleton dependency in the controller. So whenever there is this employee service object is used, employee service, this object use, that reference will be provided from the IOC container. And here what we'll do is, let me add a try catch block, catch exception ex. Let me remove this return statement. So in the try catch block, I'll type system.console write line, and let's say whatever the exception has been we got, we'll just log it, and we'll return status code find it comma ex dot message in worst case. So this is small debugging things I am creating. So in the try block, basically you can use that employee service object that you have created. So I'll use asynchronous method await dot insert employee details, and this method needs employee request object. So if you see this returns either true or false, this, and the method is accepting employee request which we have passed. So let's say boolean result, this one. So if this is true, then what we can say is our record have been inserted, right? So in that case we'll return OK, or return created rather. And what this method accept is else. What will return is status code, let's say not able to create or whatsoever you can return from here. Okay, let's say return status code. I'll write something, whatever the exception if we received, in that case it is false. So let's say return again 500 and not able to insert, something like this one. Okay, so this is very basic API that we have created. Again, let's verify the things before rerunning. This is the employee table, this is the database server, and the database name is mydb, and we have one record already inserted. So I'll up the server. So from body we are expecting we need to send the data to this API. So server is running, it's taking time for me. So you can see the server is taking time, it is getting started. Once the server start, we can able to test the API that we have created. So you can see the server is started for HTTPS on 7132, and the Swagger window is available. So this is the route API /employee/AddEmployee, that's what we have provided in the code. So this is the base route API. So in case of this annotation, the controller name, by removing the suffix controller, will be placed, and the route. So that will be, you can see here, and you can try it out here. So in this one we can test these things. Let's add the employee details. Let's add Selena Gomez, email Selena Gomez @gmail.com. its salary is $10,000 and is active true. So let me put up breakpoints. So the controller will put one breakpoint, here as well in the exception. So in the employee service, let me add a breakpoint. So in the parameters, SQL connection, SQL string, and the rows affected. So let's go to our Swagger window. So here is the details, what is expected from body. I'll click on the continue button. So our code has hit on the server, the request came. In the controller class you can see, I'll click on continue. We'll go to the service class, click on continue. So it is replacing from that command the values. So the query has been executed. So number of rows affected is 1, which means the data has been successfully inserted into the database. I'll click on the continue, and here you can see the status code 204, which is successful response. And if I click on select star from employee, you can see the Selena Gomez. Basically, a small enhancement you can do here. Instead of just returning created, you can return the created employee details, like instead of created at action, there is this method. Okay, so in this method, if you heard, what this method is accepting is action name, basically the method name, and the object value. So action name is name of, this is an operator, so name of our method name. Let me stop the server. So this is add employee. In this method we are writing. Second is the object it is expecting, so we can directly put the employee request type that object has been created. Let me up the server. Server has been started. Let's give the new employee name this time and see what happens. We'll use the post method. Try Arjit Singh, and the email is arjitsingh@gmail.com. Oops, 20,000. So these are the details we are trying to insert. I click on execute, so this will come to the controller. Again it will go to service layer. Again this value changed, parameter will changed, SQL connection opened, executed query closed, return affected, values is 1. Click on continue, and this time you can see the response 201 created with the created object details, right? So in this way, basically, if you specify on the controller the generic response, in some cases you are able to return the bad request, in some cases you are able to return a status code, in some cases you are returning created an action with the employee type object, right? So due to this action result, these things are possible. So in next video I'll try to cover the update, delete, get details. Thank you.